So, welcome to the DCB writing class. Today we're going to talk a bit in class about what it means to be a valuable community member, both in this computer lab and the work we do online. We're going to talk about this as a community, but I want to also talk about it here on this recording so you can access it later on. These are some of the big ideas. We're going to talk about other things. Writing online and in a computer lab requires you take care of a couple of very important resources, one of which may be obvious to you and the other is equally important but may not be quite as visible to you. So we're going to talk about some simple guidelines for caring for your workstation and for your digital self. So the first is we're going to talk about the actual computers in the lab, and then we're going to talk about your digital self, and that means the version of you that may well end up living forever online. So some really simple things in the computer lab. You want to make sure that the computer lab is a place where we are calm. I'm sure that we'll do some very exciting stuff in here, but by and large, this is not outside. We need to use our inside voices and no horseplay, right? There is no food or drink. If you need to get a drink of water, you'll be able to go out to the water fountain, get a drink of water, and have that. You're not going to be allowed to bring water, drinks, etc. into the computer lab because water is very bad for computers. You want to make sure there's no food even on your hands. So be sure to wash your hands after lunch before you come into the computer lab, because while we serve really delicious lunches here at Dawson, we don't want to leave that lunch on the keyboard for the next user, right? You don't want to have to deal with like a sticky mouse or a keyboard with syrup from waffles for lunch day, right? The key to doing well in the computer lab is respect. We're going to have a shared storage space. So you're going to always make sure you're putting your files in the right folder, but you also want to respect the files of other people. You don't want to be messing with their files just like you wouldn't want to have anyone mess with your files. Some very simple things I'm going to ask you to do, and I'll show you how to do these in class. We're going to want to make sure that the first thing you're going to do when you come into the lab is you're going to need to log in to your user profile. And you're going to need to open browsers. Open your browser. And you're going to need to go to the kid blog page. And by this point, you'll actually know how to get here. But at the end of the day, you're going to do the opposite of this. You're going to close your browsers. And you're also going to log off. This is the computer lab version of putting your tools away. At the beginning of class, we get our tools out. At the end of class, we put our tools away. And that helps keep our information safe, because if you leave your browser open, someone might accidentally end up using your stuff or saving over your files. So making sure that you log in when you come in, open the browser. At the end of your work time, when I say, okay, it's time to wrap up, I'll give you a couple minutes warning. You get to the close of what you're doing, and you're going to log off also. The very end of this, right before you leave, you're going to push in your chair. This is really simple stuff that just makes the computer lab a more orderly place for everyone that has to use it. There's 100 students in this summer program, and we just want to make sure that everyone has a good experience and that the equipment's always ready for each of you to use. Last, but certainly not least, we're going to ask that you respect our web filters. And when I talk about this, you'll hear me say, don't climb the fence. The web filters are set up to make sure that the work we're doing is safe, that you're not exposed needlessly to websites that have dangerous or inappropriate information on them. If you do anything to try to undermine that web filter or get around it, that's going to be a very serious issue, and that's, big trouble. So do not climb the fence, or you will end up in big trouble. So that's some basic stuff about computers and caring for the workstation. Let's talk about something that's a little bit more important, and that's your digital self. So when you work on computers and you do work that will end up online, and the writing that we do here will end up being online, you want to make sure that you are basically at all times kind and truthful to yourself and others. Don't put information that isn't true online, because that information will be there forever and it's really hard to get rid of. The saying is that diamonds are forever, but they have nothing on pixels. And pixels are what digital information is built out of. So when you're working, you want to make sure that you are consistently kind and truthful. Make sure you only post your information. Don't post the information of others. And that you get permission for pictures. When we start working on blog posts and your responses to blog posts, we're going to moderate those. In other words, the writing that you do will be checked by others to make sure that it's kind, that it's truthful, that it's appropriate, that it's focused on you and not others. So that's one way you're going to get permission. But later on, when you're working in a class, you might take a picture of your project, and there might be your friend might be in that picture. You're going to need to check with them to make sure they're okay with you putting that picture on your blog to talk about your project, because they're in that picture. You need to make sure that you get permission from other people in the picture, from people who own the picture. We're going to talk more about different levels of permissions and copyright as we go. But just as a basic guideline, I want to introduce you to this idea that all of the work that you do online, no matter what it is, no matter if it's your Facebook, your Instagram, etc., is building a digital version of yourself. And you want to be careful when you're building that digital version that you're building your best possible self online. Because when you go to apply for colleges, they're going to look at who you are online. They're going to look at your grades, for sure. They're going to look at your application. They're going to look at your essays. But they're also going to look at the work that you've done online. They're going to see how you've interacted with other people. They're going to see that what they're going to see from you, because you've been in this program and you've learned how to do it, they're going to see that you're the kind of person that when you're interacting with the community online, you're adding value to that community. You're making that digital world a better place to be in by interacting positively with others. So that's all we're going to talk about right now. But remember that when you're doing anything online, from playing games that have a user profile, to posting information on your blog or your Tumblr or your Facebook or whatever it is, you're creating a permanent record that will last forever of who you are and what you've done. So make sure you do that carefully and build a record that you can be proud of, because you're awesome. And you want people to know when they look at the work you've done online that you are awesome. Thanks for listening, guys. Stop.